The heck is the Fed talking about here? So I'm reading this article right here. Aging, deflation, and secular stagnation. And basically what they say here is we present evidence that the aging of the population is depressing the inflation rate, as well as the interest rates and GDP growth. And aging in industrial countries will continue to put large and steady downward pressure on prices, interest rates, and output growth in future years. 100%. It's deflationary. I completely agree with that. What I don't understand, though, what the Fed's saying here is right here. They use Japan as an example. And it's very interesting right here. The increase in household asset demand in Japan reflects the move by the Japanese baby boomers into retirement and also longer retirement periods as a result of longer life expectancy. All right? The increase in aggregate household demand for liquid assets puts downward pressure on prices. So what they're saying is, hey, as people retire, they're not so quick to spend their money because they need to replace their income from work with their retirement assets. So they go on to say here, they want to save for their retirement, and lower interest rates constrain their ability to save. So they respond by consuming less. I completely agree with that. They say, oh man, I'm not getting a big bang for my buck on my money. And with lower interest rates, then I'm going to have to save. I want to hold on, basically hoard my assets, and I'm going to spend less. But where they make a mistake right here, they say, so the Japanese, well, in this case Japan, but they're all saying United States too. They say the retirees will respond by reallocating their savings away from liquid assets, your portfolio essentially, CDs, fixed deposits, that nature, towards illiquid assets, like your house or rental real estate. They say the increase in household asset demand reflects the move by Japanese baby boomers into retirement, which would actually put downward pressure on prices. I was like, wait a second. Downward pressure on prices, if there's an increase in demand for liquid assets, that's going to be upward pressure on prices. But that's not what they're saying. They're saying it would put downward pressure on other items for prices in terms of inflation. Basically, when you hoard, you don't spend as much, and that's that because you're not consuming as much. The prices go down on the things that you buy. So inflation will go down. I completely agree with that. Completely 100% agree with that. But they don't make that very clear, but that's what they're saying. I had to think about that. I said, what? You're saying if you increase demand, decreases prices on the thing as being in demand? No. You see that butterfly fly behind me? So pretty. But then they say as interest rates go down, all right, because that's what happens. You have lower GDP, lower people borrowing, lower growth, you're going to lower the interest rates. As interest rates go down, it works against retirees who want to save for their retirement, and lower interest rates constrain their ability to consume, but also constrains their ability to save because they're getting lower interest rates. So instead of that, they're going to put their money into illiquid assets. And the liquid assets, again, would be real estate. And it's just, we don't see that. And I looked at Japan. I said, Japan have any instances where they're paying off their mortgages? No. No, they don't. I mean, it's still about, just like the United States, about 2/3 of the population of Japan owns their own home. And just like the United States, about 1/3 of them have mortgages on it still. But there's no massive increase in mortgage payments going off over the last 20 years that I could see. It's weird. I don't get why they say that. Anyway, let's keep going here. Because this age group is large, the baby boomers, it more than offsets any positive activities that a lower policy interest rate might have on demand for goods by younger working age households. Surprisingly, the demographic shock continues to produce deflation and secular stagnation, even if the size of government debt to GDP increases. Interesting. Well, I thought debt to GDP is the harbinger of all massive inflation. Hi, butterfly. Let's see if you can see him. Oh, it's so pretty. The downward pressure on the inflation rate, real interest rates, and GDP growth induced by the demographic shock ends around the 24th. They're talking specifically about Japan, but also in most G7 countries when the baby boomers essentially die off. But they say right here, aging is a global phenomenon. Aging may be less rapid in the United States compared to Europe and Asia, but is it responsible to conclude that deflationary pressures and secular stagnation will be less pronounced here? If individuals in foreign countries view the United States as an attractive location to invest part of their retirement savings, and even the U.S. pace of aging is more gradual, Rapid aging in other countries will exert downward pressure on U.S. inflation and real interest rates here in the future as well. I don't know if I agree with that, but I just don't like this idea because we've heard before that as the baby boomers retire, oh, look at that butterfly. There's going to be downward pressure on stock prices because they're going to start mass selling. And we just haven't seen that. We haven't. But now we're saying there's going to be actually, as baby boomers retire, and the prices are declining, but not prices on liquid assets, your bank accounts, CDs and all that. It's going to be GDP, consumer prices, because people are consuming less. But they were consuming less before, even when the markets were kicking butts and taking names. So they're saying as real returns drop, people will consume less. I'm like, but the real returns were going gangbusters in the 80s, 90s, and 2000s. We have evidence all over the place, the BLS, that says people were still consuming less. It doesn't make any sense to me. I'm like, Fed, what are you talking about? As prices drop, as the interest rates drop, people consume less? Is there any evidence of that? I mean, you could have a correlation, but there's no causation. We had consuming less even when the interest rates are high, even when the freaking stock market's kicking ass and taking names. Is there any evidence that prices drop because of people's consuming less? Now, I think it will, absolutely, but is there evidence of people consuming less, prices drop? And again, we don't see that. Now, does that mean we're going to have mass inflation? No, absolutely not. Does that mean we're going to have deflation where prices drop significantly? No. I don't think there's going to be high inflation at all. I think inflation will be moderately low, for sure. Could the U.S. maybe be a little bit better because we have a better population, a better economy, and because we crush compared to all these other guys who slush? Of course. We always crush. As long as we got the GOAT still in the office, and hopefully he'll run for a 5th, 6th, and 7th term like FDR. But at the end of the day, it just makes sense. So, because what they're saying is they're essentially, you should take your fixed assets and put it into illiquid assets like real estate. And they don't say for specifically if they're talking illiquid assets are considered retirement accounts. They don't say that. I'm assuming not, because those are liquid assets. Illiquid assets are like they talk about here. An illiquid asset, it takes time for illiquid assets, and it's costly to adjust, the prices to adjust. And, buying 100 shares of VTI doesn't take time. It's not costly to adjust. I just don't, this is look, I don't know, you don't know, but I'm just sitting there thinking, man, it's weird, and this is what's driving our economic policies, is like these Federal Reserve white papers that are just based on speculation. And this is why I say you gotta have a diversified portfolio of U.S. stocks, U.S. cash, some bonds too, because you just don't know. I don't know. Anyone could be wrong. Remember, debt to GDP over 100% will doom us. And yet Japan's had a debt to GDP of like 250% now for a while. Over 200% since, 2015. You've had a debt to GDP of over 100% for a while in the United States. Why is it 100% worse than 99? It's silly. And so we see this. We saw the deficit at 3% of GDP will kill us. And it's just not. Inflation's going down, even though the deficit is going up. The amount of government debt, none of these things have come to fruition. The stock market has declined because baby boomers are going to sell their assets like crazy once they start retiring, not making their money anymore. It just didn't happen. It's just very frustrating. So, all right, I thought I'd share that with you. God bless. We'll see you. Smash.